The central axis is an important feature of ancient Chinese capital cities, generally consisting of palace buildings, ceremonial and sacrificial structures, city management facilities, and corresponding city spaces, which played a leading role in the capital city and embodied the central axis as the most honorable city order. The evolution of the central axis in ancient Chinese capital cities has been a long process, over thousands of years and dozens of dynasties, through the construction practices of numerous settlements, cities, and capital cities. China gradually formed the unique layout of the central axis of the ancient capital. Beijing has a history of more than 3,000 years of city building and 870 years of capital city building, and was the capital city of the Jin, Yuan, Ming, and Qing dynasties. The Beijing Central Axis is a masterpiece of central axis in ancient Chinese capital cities. In 1553, the Jin dynasty moved the capital from Shangjing, today's Cheng in Harbin, to Yanjing, today's Beijing, and named it middle capital Zhongdu. Beijing experienced Zhicheng in the Pre-Qin dynasty, Youzhou in the Han and Tong dynasties, and the secondary capital of the Liao dynasty. Finally, in the Jin dynasty, Beijing ascended the stage of history as the capital of a great power. Jin Zhongdu copied the regulation of Beijing in the northern Song dynasty, and consists of an outer city, an inner city, an imperial city, and a palace city. Following the principle of emphasizing the central axis and symmetrical layout, Jin Zhongdu directly influenced the capital layout of the subsequent dynasties. In 1267, Kublai Khan, the first emperor of the Yuan dynasty, decided to move the capital to the Yanjing area and built Yuan Dodu according to the capital regulations described in Confucian classics, laying the foundation for the Beijing city of the Ming dynasty. Yuan Dodu first determined the city center, city scale, floor boundaries, and the central axis. Then it determined the important spatial venues, such as palaces, temples, and government offices, according to the front palace, rear market, left ancestral temple, right sacrificial altar system. Yuan Dodu is a newly built capital city centered on Taipei, consisting of an outer city, an imperial city, and a palace city. The outer city had a square plan with 11 city gates. The imperial city was located in the south-central part of the outer city, with one gate on each side. The eastern part of the imperial city was the palace city, with a northern imperial garden. The western part was Taipei and the palace buildings. The palace city was located on the central axis of the outer city in the south, with a front palace and rear pavilion layout, and each side had a gate. The central government offices were originally scattered, but later concentrated in the south and east of the imperial city. The Taimiao Temple of the Ancestors was set up inside the Qihua Gate of the outer city, and the Shijitan Altar of Land and Grain was built inside the Pingzhen Gate, forming a left ancestral temple and right earth and grain god temple layout. The Hazy Street and the bell tower area behind the imperial city became an important commercial area. The layout of Yuan Dodu formed a capital central axis of about 3.8 kilometers in length, and the scale far surpassed that of previous dynasties. In 1368, the Ming general Su Do captured Yuan Dodu and rebuilt the city walls. The northern part of the city was abandoned, with the northern city wall being moved 5 li south. In 1419, the southern city wall was expanded to li southward. After the renovation, Beijing city had a circumference of 40 li, and 9 gates were opened. In 1420, the Ming dynasty officially moved its capital to Beijing. In 1553, in order to strengthen the defense of the capital, the outer city was built. Due to lack of financial resources, only the southern suburbs were built, called the outer city. The outer city wall was 28 li long and had 7 gates. In 1563, the barbicans of each gate in the outer city were also renovated, and the Beijing city of the Ming dynasty was thus finalized. In 1420, the Ming Beijing city was basically completed on the foundation of the Yuan Dodu. The bell and drum towers of the Yuan dynasty were preserved in the northern part of the Beijing central axis. In addition, the layout of the Ming Beijing central axis was basically modeled after that of the Nanjing city. By the Ming-Jing period, the south of the Beijing city was renovated, and the worship of the god of agriculture was rebuilt, and the worship of heaven and earth was separated. The overall layout of the central axis of the Beijing city was basically formed. The Qing dynasty inherited the layout of the Ming dynasty's Beijing city and central axis. Emperor Qianlong of the Qing dynasty believed that Beijing is located in the center of the earth, meeting the conditions of being the imperial capital. The Jingshan Shaowong Temple was located in the northeastern part of Jingshan in the Ming dynasty. In 1750, Emperor Qianlong moved the Shaowong Temple to the Beijing central axis in the northern of Jingshan. This indicates that Emperor Qianlong had already developed a clearer awareness of the central axis. In 1911, the Xinhai Revolution broke out, marking the end of the Chinese imperial era. Along with the transformation of Chinese society, the buildings along Beijing's central axis gradually became more accessible to the public. Since the founding of the People's Republic of China, the central axis of the Beijing city has continued to play a leading role in the modernization, development and construction of the city, and embodies Beijing's rich cultural relics, historic sites and Chinese culture.